Can you hear me now?
Now yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Somehow we
Okay.
both got muted. I have no idea how that happened, but that's
Yeah.
what happened. We both got muted. So as I was saying before we got muted, welcome to Paranormal Addicts, Season 3, Episode 7. We are on a special day today because your boy here had walking pneumonia, dealing with my torn meniscus, and I was moving last week. So it was a kind of a crazy week. But we wanted to get you on here as soon as we could. So
Right.
we'll start out like we always do. Just give everybody a brief introduction of who you are. Don't go into too much details because you're worried my first few questions. So just just give everybody a brief introduction of who Brian is.
All right. Well, Brian is I'm an author. I have I have two books coming out in May. They're books number 13 and 14 overall. And I mostly dabble in speculative fiction, which is, horror, sci-fi, fantasy. But lately I've been the guy that's been staying inside of haunted places to write ghost hunting books for Get Haunted, which has been a lot of fun. So, I was the one that stayed at Missouri State Penitentiary for 8 weeks. And now I just recently stayed at the Ditto House, to write the second book in the series. So that was an experience in itself. And then I also wrote a young reader chapter novel, which has the pets of Get Haunted going and investigating a haunted house that is haunted by only animal ghosts. So that's for the 8 to 12-year-old age group. But I use the actual pets of the Get Haunted peeps as the main characters, which was a lot of fun to tell a story through the eyes of animals who want to go on their own ghost hunt because their humans do it and they want to be like their humans.
That's true. So my first question is more about your background. It just says, for the people who may not know you yet, tell us a little bit about yourself. You already did that. So first question, we handle it. So second question, every investigator or writer seems to have one moment where the unknown first grabs them. What was that moment for you? What pulled you into the paranormal?
Well, I was born and raised in Salem, Massachusetts, and I think when you're born and grow up in a city like that, I just think it's around you at all times. You can't escape it. You can go to the CVS on a July afternoon, and Salem still has this weirdness to it. And I didn't realize like the feel of Salem until I moved away. I didn't move out of Salem until I was 30. So I spent the first 3 decades of my life there, but it wasn't until I left Salem and I met people who would like that Salem is like their number one on their bucket list. I didn't realize how special it was to grow up in that city until I was no longer in the city and I met all these people. And the other thing too is I also lived in a funeral home for many years. And so I think just being born and raised in Salem and also living in a funeral home during my formative years as a young kid, we lived on the property. I think that shapes, a lot of the macabre that I love, and the whole area, because I've lived in Salem and I was born in Salem and all the cities that surround Salem, right? Lynn, Danvers, Peabody, Marblehead, Swampscott. They all still have that Salem feel. It's not Salem. It's not always just Salem proper. I lived in Lynn, and even Lynn being next to Salem's, it like bleeds over. It still carries over. So I think when you can't escape it, it just becomes who you are. But you don't know it's part of who you are until you don't live there anymore. And then you're like, wow, like so much that I write about or the way that I think, or when I start coming up with a new idea for a book, I tend to keep going back to my Salem roots without realizing I'm doing it. So I would say that and, being around dead bodies most of my life in the funeral home probably didn't help.
Right, yeah. I mean, Yeah, kind of like with me, I was born with I consider them gifts nowadays. 5, 6, 7 year old me didn't particularly consider them gifts, but I don't remember my earliest childhood memory was actually seeing a full body apparition. And of course, it didn't look like an apparition to me. So growing up like that, that's what always it's like you said, it's just part of my story. It's just
Right.
always who I am. So yeah. So yeah. Uh, well, okay. So you pretty much answer that. So Let's talk a little bit about your writing and your storytelling.
Yeah.
So you're known as an author and a storyteller. And what drew you particularly to telling? What was the switch from like the horror to paranormal? Was it just interest, or was it something that?
So yeah, the I never honest to honest to Chewbacca or whatever. I I did not have on my bingo card that I would be writing ghost hunting novels. I love ghost hunting. I love all movies that have to do with ghosts or haunted houses, and I'm very fascinated in it. But never had it anywhere on my radar as an author. Um, and I was in Missouri for work, for training, and I had to stay there for. I was in Missouri for a total of 18 weeks training for my job, for my 9 to 5 job, and every weekend that went by, we started running out of things to do. And one of the guys that I was there with said, "Hey, it was like week 8 or something like that, and week 9. It was it was like I know it was close to week 10. One of the guys that I was there with says, "Hey, the Missouri State Penitentiary has overnight ghost hunts. That's something we can do this weekend. That breaks up the monotony of, going to the same bar or the same restaurant every weekend." And I was like, I've never done a ghost hunt before. I've done ghost tours, right? I did a ghost tour in New Orleans. I did a ghost tour, in other places. But a ghost tour, you get a tour guide, right? And they walk you to different locations and they tell a spooky story. And then you move to the next location. I did a ghost tour in Savannah, Georgia. But I'd never done an overnight where here's a bunch of equipment and go hunt ghosts. So I was so excited. I was so excited to do it. Again, never thinking about it turning into books. And I went and I loved it so much that I remember it ending at 3 a.m. and I didn't want it to end. I didn't care how tired I was. I was like, I could keep going. I'm having so much fun. I had never held a K2 meter before in my life, and they passed them out at Missouri State Penitentiary. If you turn in your driver's license for, collateral, they'll give you equipment for free to walk around with. So here I got this K2 meter. I didn't even realize that I wasn't using it correctly. I didn't care. I was just having so much fun. Well, I had so much fun that I looked up when they were doing another one, and the next one happened to be the very next weekend, but it was going to be with Get Haunted in Nesper. I bought a ticket, and I could have cared less about Get Haunted at the time. I just wanted to go again. I didn't know who they were, right? This is my introduction even to like the Get Haunted world. I had no idea who they were. Seriously, I had no clue. But I also didn't know that going to that second ghost hunt with Get Haunted was really going to change my career as an author. I believe that the universe puts things in front of you, and it's our job to either seize it, or to ignore it, and I feel like the universe put me at MSP, Missouri State Penitentiary, again, happenstance when Get Haunted was doing a major event with Nesper, completely coincidental. And Rob from Get Haunted, if you've never done a overnight with him where it's a very large, if it's a large place where there's lots of guests, he splits you up into groups. And it was just, again, completely coincidental that he split my group up and paired us with these 2 women, Hannah and Lizzie. So we were kind of stuck with them for like the first 2 hours. And as we were kind of going through the different stations, like Trevor ran a station, Rob ran a station, different people ran different stations. I just, in my brain, my author brain kicked in, and I was like, there's a book here. I don't know what the story is, but there's a book here. There's a story about people who go to a location to ghost hunt, and the ghosts like are fed up and don't want anything to do with it anymore. And that was the first thought I had. And I didn't know where I was going to set it. I didn't know. I really didn't have anything else. And then I started thinking a couple days later, I was like, why don't I just have it happen at the Missouri State Penitentiary? Right? I know the layout really well. I think it'd be fun to have the book take place here. But I wanted to make sure there was no like legal ramifications that I was going to run into. I didn't know if I didn't want them to sue me because I'm using them as the setting. So I found out who I found one of the tour guides, Jenny. Everybody knows Jenny. I found her on Facebook, and I like cold contacted her. I was like, hey, I'm an author. I've done 2 overnights now there. I want to write a book about a ghost hunt gone wrong at MSP, but I want to make sure that like you guys aren't going to turn around and sue me, or the state of Missouri is going to get mad at me, or, whatever. So she's like, let me ask our boss. And that turned out to be Sheila. And Sheila loved the idea. She was like, oh, I love this. And I don't know how it happened, but somewhere in the conversations, it came up where it was like, well, why don't you just write it here? And I was like, what do you mean just write it there? Well, why don't you just write the whole book here at MSP? I was like, wait a minute, what? Like, I was just happy that they were allowing me to use it as the location. Now they're like opening their door to let me come in and now stay there and write. So every word of These Walls Still Talk, that's the name of that book. Every word of These Walls Still Talk was written inside Missouri State Penitentiary. Not a single word was written outside of the walls, that property. And what an amazing experience. And Get Haunted had their supernatural soiree a couple months after I'd written the book. The book wasn't out yet, but it was finished. And Rob invited me as a guest, to the soiree. And Wade from Nesper was there. And Wade asked me if I was going to turn it into a series. And I said, no. I said, I have no plans to turn it into a series. There's not going to be any more books. It's a one and done. I just can't believe that I got lucky enough that MSP let me stay there. Like, this was amazing. So Wade goes, well, I want to introduce you to a couple, Ernie and Denise Pack. Come here. Let me introduce you to Ernie and Denise. And I didn't know who they were. I had no idea who they were. So Wade brings me over, and they're at their table. And Wade introduces me. He says, hey, this is Brian. He's the one who wrote the book at MSP. And Wade says, and Ernie and Denise own Kentucky's most haunted house, most haunted inn, whatever you want to call it, right? So we start talking. Yeah, we start talking, and next thing you know, like now we're talking about a second book that's going to take place at the Ditto House, and I'm invited now to stay and
great
crash.
Location. Ditto House is a great location, and and for the people listening, watching, whatever, that hasn't bought the first book, it's an excellent book. You need to get it. I have a copy. It's one, so it is an excellent copy. So yeah, didn't really want to interrupt there. Just wanted to plug your book for you.
Thank you. So one thing that I do want to say is I kept a diary, and I'm glad I did. I kept a diary of everything paranormal or unexplained that happened to me while I was at MSP. And my editor talked me into including my diary as is at the end of the book. So anybody who doesn't know anything about the book or doesn't own it, if you buy the book after you're done with the novel, the fictional story part, you get my actual diary of everything that happened to me while I was there during those 8 weeks. And I had some very specific things happen to me. But so Ernie and Denise were like, yeah, why don't you do a book too? And we'll be at the Ditto House and you can stay here. So I crashed in the murder room. I wrote the second book in what we are calling a Get Haunted Tale series. And that comes out May 14th. And we're having our big book release party at the Ditto House. And the pre-orders for that are live right now on my website. So I've already taken a ton of pre-orders for it. So I think, people are enjoying, this little series I've started. And then the third book, like I said, is a young reader, 8 to 12-year-old age range, where all of the pets of everybody. Ernie and Denise's dog is in it. Rob's dog is in it. Sarah's dog is in it. You know, Kaylee and from Get Haunted and Bill from Get Haunted, like their animals are in it. And they go investigate a haunted house, and that's coming out on the same day as the Ditto House book. So they're coming out both on May 14th.
Well, I'm definitely not 8 to 12. I'm way past that, but I'm interested in that book too, to be honest. And of course, I'm definitely interested in the Ditto House book. I, I'm still, I'm still planning on, if I can still get tickets, I'm planning on coming to the release. I'm not going to do the investigation because I've investigated it before. One of my favorite locations, but I'm not a big public investigation person. If I'm investigating something, I want to do it myself. So
we do. I'm just going to build on that real quick. So we have tickets. So the book release party is 2 days long. Friday. We have tickets where you'll get a tour of the Ditto House by Ernie and Denise, a meet and greet with everybody. So it's kind of a historical / paranormal tour. So that we have tickets for those on Friday. I keep saying Saturday and Friday. And then Saturday night, the second half of the book release party is at Fort Duffield, which is known for its known for its Sasquatches and its Civil War ghosts. And so we're going to be doing a night up there. Ernie and Denise host something called Spirits. Shoot, damn, I can't remember the name of it. Spirits, Squatches, because I come up with my own names for it, so I always joke. Spirits. Oh my god, I don't know if they're watching, they'll chime in. But so it's kind of cool that the book release party is in 2 different nights. We're doing the Ditto House on Friday and Fort Duffield on Saturday.
And Fort Duffield is actually one of my locations I haven't been to that I want to go to.
Well, so come on down. Come on.
Especially, I'm from Kentucky too. So, I'm only 3 hours from the Ditto House.
Yeah. So, come on. Yeah. We get tickets. So tickets for the Fort Duffield part of the book release party are going to go on sale at the end of this month. Those haven't gone on sale yet, but the tickets for the Ditto House on Friday, those are on sale right now. And tickets are available on my website, brianpaone.com. They're available on Get Haunted's website. You can, if you just Google it, you get a link will pop up, in order to get tickets.
It's Spirits, Squatches, and Stories.
That's it.
The campfire.
That is it. Yeah. I come up with my own names for it. I call it like campfires, conundrums, and I don't know. I get Ernie laughing because I can never remember that title. So I make my own title up for it.
that works. Yeah. So, and I'm going to tell people that's watching, if you can make it to either event, especially if you can make it to the Ditto House part, you want to, because Ernie and Denise aren't really doing investigations at the Ditto House right now, because they live there. They actually live there, and they just got too much last year, so they're taking a break. Their exact words are, "We're not saying we're never going to allow people to come back, but we just need to take a break and focus." So.
This might be your only chance to get a tour of the inside of the Ditto House is my book release party. So I definitely would jump on that.
And it's crazy active. I'm sure you have experiences. We were actually the next to last or the last team to get to investigate it. We went on December 12th of this year. So we were right there. So it's definitely a good place. So. Let's talk a little. I got a couple more questions about your writing. Then we're going to talk a little bit about Get Haunted, because I always tell people, once you're part of Get Haunted, it's a family. It's no longer So, but we'll get to that in just a second. But I like this question. This is one of my favorite questions when it comes to the writing. Do you approach your paranormal story? No, that's not the right one. I skipped ahead. I skip I have this. I can't even read my own stuff. Okay, when you're writing, this is a question I wonder here. When you're writing about the paranormal, how do you balance research, experience, and imagination?
I do my research first. So, for instance, for These Walls Still Talk, I deep dove into the riots of 1954. because I knew that I wanted those riots to be the centerpiece, like the cornucopia, if you will, of the novel. But I wanted to get it factually correct. I didn't want to make stuff up. I wanted the reader to feel like they were experiencing the riot as if it was a documentary. In my book, the riot happens as a residual haunting every night. So the guests get trapped inside the riot as it's happening, but it's all ghosts that are rioting, right? And I knew that I wanted the riot itself at MSP is so fascinating that I didn't even need to create anything that wasn't there. Same thing with the Ditto House book. Again, Ernie and Denise will tell you if you ever talk to them about my stay. We started off my stay there without. I didn't start writing the book yet. We started off with me asking probably 20,000 questions about the house, about the history, things that Ernie and Denise didn't know. Ernie went and got the answers to by like local historians, or he made sure he came back with an answer. I wanted names, dates, what was the name of this person who died? What was the year? How did they die? What was the order of this house? Because it was everything from a hospital to a post office to a train ticket station to a brothel to a bed and breakfast. I wanted like what order those went in. And so I did a lot of research, and this is before I even write the words chapter 1. Like I want all this research done. I don't want to be researching like while I'm writing. I want it all done up front. And then I start writing, and I just let my imagination fill in all the gaps. I will tell you that with both of these books, because I wrote them on location, there were moments when the area or the room or wherever I was, whether it was MSP or the Jetta House, almost felt like it was coming alive, or I'd see a shadow figure or something would walk behind me. And that would kind of change how I wrote whatever scene I was writing. Right. So I did kind of when I got scared, I made my character scared in the book. So I would sometimes like project my feelings into the book. It was great writing at MSP, as I wrote, most of the time in the dark and most of the time alone. So there's something when you're in a building that huge and it starts to get creepy and you start hearing clangs and slams that shouldn't be there. I think it just came out in the book. I think there's parts in the book that wouldn't have been as well written if I wasn't terrified myself.
Yeah,
And
you
there
would
was,
experience it.
yeah. And at the Ditto House, Ernie and Denise went to work every day and they left me alone. Now, sure, it was daylight, but if you've been to the Ditto House, you know that the entities in the Ditto House do not care if it's noon or midnight. There are some places where nothing happens during the day, right? And the ghosts come out at night. The Ditto House is like, it doesn't matter. It could be sunny, bright, birds chirping, and something could walk through the parlor. Like you just, there's no, like it doesn't follow a clock. So even Ernie and Denise leaving me there every day to write was just as terrifying as me being at MSP at 2 a.m. by myself. Because the Ditto House doesn't sleep. It doesn't care. And I think that kind of anxiousness, I was definitely more anxious at the Ditto House than I was at MSP. And I think that anxiety comes out in the book. I think the Ditto House novel has a little bit more anxiety built in than the MSP, than These Walls Still Talk. So
I think it's a good point. Like you said, the Ditto House, yeah, you have activity no matter what. I think the most fascinating, I'll call it the most fascinating thing to me. Other people might say the scariest thing that happened, but the most fascinating thing that happened to me was when we first started. And like I said, when we first started, it was probably like 6 o'clock, so still daylight.
mhm.
And we were up in Ernie and Denise's bedroom, and I had all my equipment set up, all my fancy gadgets, and
Right.
and we started doing EVP. We've been doing it EVP session. We had been doing it probably 8 minutes. On the camera it says 8 minutes and 21 seconds. So I guess we've been doing it 8 minutes and 21 seconds. And something just took all the equipment and knocked it off the chest. Just shoved it off the chest like they were done. and and it wasn't like it was light equipment, and it had been sitting there for 8 minutes.
Mhm.
Somebody was like, "Oh, it just fell off." I'm like, "It had been sitting there for 8 minutes." I'm like, so yeah, it's definitely one of those things. It's definitely one of those places where it doesn't matter day, night, and I, I'm glad you mentioned that because that's one thing I like to mention when I talk about investigating. When I do my tours at the libraries and stuff with my book that just came out, I do like a paranormal 101 lecture talk, whatever you want to put it, and
Mhm.
one of the things I tell people, you know, we investigate mostly at night because there's less interference and more energy for the spirits. But
Right.
spirits can be there anytime. We have to
Right.
think they're
It's
living
funny
their
because
life.
I hear that. I never thought of that before. And when I got into doing this stuff, there's the question comes up. Well, why do ghosts only come out at night? And I realized that staying at the Ditto House, I realized that they don't. Oh, they don't. Right. It's just we're either more susceptible to them, or it's just easier, or we're or the world is quieter. Right.
Yep,
So
that's what it
maybe
is.
like there's less cars, there's less hubbub outside. So something that you would hear at night, you wouldn't necessarily hear during the day because it might be a low sound, and you got like, I don't know, kids getting off a school bus outside. So um, the Ditto House taught me that it doesn't matter. Like, like I said, it could be 10 a.m. and you're eating your eggs and aren't having your orange juice and your morning cup of coffee, and something could just walk right through the dining room, and you're like, you got to be kidding me. So
Right.
yeah.
So you got a question. What was the most unsettling thing that happened to you at the prison?
So that involved me and one of the tour guides, James, and the police officer that was on duty that night. Her name was Jensen. I'll never forget it. Um, so MSP has police there at night. Because it's a big place and you got a bunch of strangers, trying to, you know, ghost hunt, and they don't want anything happening. So um, I was in one of the room. I was in room 126, 136. I can't remember which cell number. It's actually in my diary, and I was in there writing by myself, and James, one of the tour guides, knew I was in there, and he came and sat with me. And the police officer on duty knew that me and James were in there, and she came in and sat next to me on this bench, and we just started talking. And I would say she is a believer, but a skeptic too. Now remember, she's there for work. She's not there ghost hunting. She's not there for fun. This is her shift for the night. Um, and we're talking, and she stops and says, "Something just touched my leg." Like she felt something touch her like, and she's in full uniform, right? Gun, bulletproof vest, radio, handcuffs, police uniform. And me and James looked down, and her entire right leg is gone. We could see her left leg perfectly, but it looked like someone had taken a black like pillowcase or sheet and put it in front of her right leg. So it just wasn't there anymore. It was like just total blackness. And she said out loud, "Whatever is touching my leg, I wish it would go away." And as soon as she said that, me and James both saw the blob, this black blob that was in front of her right leg, like scurry across the floor out of the cell. And then we could see her leg again. And we both saw it at the same exact time. Like, that's not trick of the light. That's not power of
Right.
suggestion. We both gasped and immediately shared what we saw. And so a shadow figure, something low. I mean, at MSP, they call it the creeper. They have a name for it because they see it so often, but it's a shadow figure that stays super, super low to the ground. Um, um, and so that's who I think it was. It was what they call the creeper. But it was in front of her leg, and she could feel it before. She never looked down. She was too scared to look down, but she could feel something touching her. And that's what alerted us to look. And so yeah, that got me that night.
Yeah, I mean that's one of those experiences. You know, if you hadn't experienced it, you wouldn't have It's like, yeah, and yeah, I had a similar experience. It was more of a technology thing, but it was still a moment that sticks with me because it's probably the best video evidence I've ever captured. I was at Octagon Hall in Franklin, Kentucky.
Mm.
They call it the most haunted place in the South, one of the most haunted places in the South, whatever. First of all, you have to, is Kentucky really the South? I say it is, but that's up for debate. But anyway, so anyway, I was there and I'd been there several times. It's a very active location, nothing evil, just lots of activity. Well, one of the stories is one of the verified stories is there was an 8-year-old girl. Different versions of the story. Some stories say it was the homeowner's daughter, and others say it was the slave daughter. But anyway, an 8-year-old girl burnt to death in the kitchen, in the summer kitchen, which was in the basement, in winter kitchen, which was in the basement. So anyway, so we was down in the basement, which was mostly like the slaves' quarters. They had the blacksmith room down there, and the kitchen, that kind of stuff. And the one room they've turned into the family library is what they turned it into. We were down there and we were doing EVP session, and something told me to look up. And I've learned after all these years to trust my intuition. When something tells me to look up, I'll look up. So when I looked up, I saw apparition. But this one was different. Usually when you see apparition, it's just there and then it's not. This one was a little girl in period dress, and she was pacing in front of the steps.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I actually caught it. Caught it on video for 28 seconds.
Oh wow!
And I tried to debunk it, because I tried to debunk it. My first thought was, well, maybe it's headlights, where the dinner house is out the Octagon Hall is out in the middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm. So there's no headlights at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
So the first thing I did is when I first saw it, I just recorded it for a while. I couldn't do anything but record it. But then once it finally disappeared after 28 seconds, I got up and I left my EVP session and I started trying to debunk it, and I couldn't debunk it. So I still have it in my evidence locker.
That's great.
So and that was kind of like my wow moment. That one, and I had a similar but completely different experience at Waverly Hills. I was in the electroshock therapy room, and I was sitting on the electroshock therapy. For anybody that's never been at Waverly, Waverly Hills is a huge place, but really the bottom floor is really all you need, because the bottom floor is the body chute, it's the morgue, and it's the electric shock therapy room.
So I'm doing Waverly Hills for the very first time in May. So
is it? I've done it 12 times. It's a good place. It never really disappoints. So
it's good.
So I was sitting on the electric shock therapy room table, and on my thermal camera, but my leg starts burning. My left leg starts burning. So I take the thermal camera, and on the thermal camera, you actually see 3 legs.
Ooh.
You see my legs, and then you see another leg beside me. Let me get on the camera so you can see what I'm talking about. So I'm sitting like this, and on the camera, there's a 3rd leg right here, and it's completely red. So there's only 3 of us in the room at the time. I make the other 2 get completely out of the room because I want to make sure this is legit. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So that was another rare moment. Somebody says floor 3. Floor 3 is crazy too. Yes.
Yeah.
She could walk down. I actually had the last time I went was last year. One of my team members, she's my case manager. Yeah, she actually would not go on the 3rd floor as she was on the staircase and opened the door. Something came across the voice recorder saying, "Stop! Do not come up here, or you will be heard." So she wouldn't go up there. So, but anyway, we won't get into that because I want you to experience that for yourself. But I just I was just sharing my couple of my wow moments. So
yeah.
So my last question on book writing, and then we'll talk a little bit about Get Haunted. So when you're writing, what is your approach of storytelling? Are you more a believer, a skeptic, or somewhere in the middle?
So I'm a I'm a believer, but I also don't think that every noise, pop of wood, crack is must be paranormal. You know, like a broom falls over in the corner. Well, that must be. And here's my thing. Um, just I feel that, and I saw this a lot at MSP when I was there, because the 8 weekends that I was there writing the book, there was ghost tours and ghost investigations happening while I was there writing, and I started to notice that if you tell yourself that you are going to hunt ghosts, your brain is already thinking that you're hunting ghosts. So that means every pop and snap and everything must be a ghost, right? Because that's what we're here for. We're looking for ghosts. So it must be. And so I don't think that. So I definitely don't think that everything that happens is a ghost, but I'm definitely a believer that there are. I just don't think that everything is, right? Because I want it
Yeah.
to be.
Oh,
So
I
I think
agree. I agree completely. Yeah, I actually posted on my team page. So I got several pages on Facebook, unfortunately, because I'm not a big Facebook person. But of course, I got my personal page, and now I got my author page. Then I got my event that I do. I host the West Kentucky Paranormal Expo.
mhm,
That's my event. I'm the host of that. And then I have my team page. On my team page, I just posted last week that was one of my posts was not everything is paranormal,
mhm,
and and I'm the same way. I mean, I'm obviously a believer. I've seen stuff. I've seen too much not to be a believer, and but I try to go into every investigation as a skeptic because,
mhm.
like you said, I don't want it to get in my head. And I don't want. That's the reason I said I wasn't going to tell you too much about Ravenly because I don't want that to get into your head.
Well, it's funny because I can tell you the moments that I absolutely 100 unequivocally will tell you that I'm believe that that was paranormal. And one of the times I was with Get Haunted in um, Pennsylvania, and I had a door close in my face because I yelled at it, because I got mad that the door wasn't closing, and I said something like, "Well, then fine. If you're not going to effing close it, I'm going to leave." And the door slammed shut, like something angrily slammed it in front of me. That is up there in the top moments where I was absolutely no denial that that was paranormal, right? Another time was I was with Hannah. She's on the chat right here. We were at Melbourne Manor in Iowa, and it was 4 in the morning, and there was a woman screaming from inside the building, screaming from down the hall. This was not coming from outside. This, and I'm guarantee you, I will go to my own grave that that was a paranormal scream. That woman was from beyond the veil screaming. Um, like my whole body broke out in goosebumps. I mean, it was terrifying. And then a lot of things at MSP that I will look at you in your eyes and say, nope, that was definitely a shadow figure. That was definitely, paranormal. And then the Ditto House. The biggest thing that happened to me at the Ditto House was I saw a full body apparition of a woman standing in the ladies' room on the other side of the bed. Now you've been to the Ditto House, so if anybody who's been to the Ditto House, outside of the nursery, the master bedroom, and the ladies' room is a couch and 2 chairs, and that's where they have their big armorer, the big guy, the right. That's called a pass through. I didn't know that was called a pass through until I did research on what things were called in houses. That's called a pass through room, which is interesting. But me, Ernie, and Denise were sitting in the pass through furniture, and I was facing the ladies' room, and the full body apparition appeared on the other side of the bed, long enough where we um, stared at each other, and I went running and the apparition went running. I joke and say it was like E.T. meeting Elliot for the first time in the cornfield, where we both like screamed and ran. That was crazy. And there's no way that anyone will ever tell me that I didn't see anything but a woman. I saw I mean, it was so concrete. I heard how Ernie and Denise talk about little children giggling. I heard the giggling twice while I was there. Unmistakably, little kids giggling in that hallway. Where the heck were the kids be coming from? Right? Um, there's a lot of stuff. So I mentioned earlier that I kept a diary when I was at MSP, and we included it at the back of the book. I did the same thing at the Ditto House. I kept a diary, and my diary is once again included at the end of the book. So you're going to get all these stories, in my diary part. So
I'm definitely looking forward to that point. And and obviously it's not going to happen this year, but next year maybe we need to talk about having you come down to my part of Kentucky and being part of my part of my. I don't call it a Paracon. I don't call
yeah,
it a Paracon. I call it a Paranormal. I call it
Expo.
Expo. And I do that on purpose
Mhm.
because Paracons have got such a bad rap. There's your cliques, and there's some
Yeah.
people that even use them as a swingers party. So I wanted to be.
Swinging with the ghosts.
I guess, and I don't know, and I don't know. I try to stay away from the drama and the negativity. That's why it's the risk. That's why it's the West Kentucky Paranormal Expo. And like this year, I got Energy Thompson's coming down again, and for 28 days on it. And next year will be year 5, so that might be a good year for you to
Okay.
come.
Yeah.
Yes, but
Keep me posted on the dates, and I'll see. I'll try to make that work, and I'll come
yeah,
down.
yeah. Sounds good. Sounds good. And okay, so let's talk a little bit about Get Haunted. Um, so I consider myself, and you'll hear me say this all the time, Brian. I consider myself the stepchild of Get Haunted because I'm way down here by myself. Ernie and Denise are the people that's closest to me, and they're 3 hours away.
Oh,
You know what I'm
geez.
saying?
Yeah.
So I've actually been part of Get Haunted for 4 years now. But the first time, and I'm not saying anything bad about these people. I love these people, their family, and that's kind of my point. So Rob, Sarah, all of them people were already family, but I had never met them until last October. Last
That was the
October,
first time.
yeah, that was the first time I actually ever met them. Sarah comes running and giving me a hug. It was like a big family reunion because they were already family and they're good people. But that was my lead into the question, which was, you've developed a strong connection with it. Get Haunted. How did that relationship start? How did you become?
Well, I consider myself the annoying next door neighbor of the Get Haunted world, right? So I'm not quite family because I'm not, I'm like the annoying neighbor who keeps coming over and asking to borrow a cup of sugar or something like that. Like they can't get rid of me.
You're the Jack Ritter of the
Yeah,
paranormal, huh?
yeah. Just when they think they've gotten rid of me, I'm ding door ditching them, and so. But no, I like I said earlier, I didn't even know who Get Haunted was, and I went to an event because I wanted to do another overnight ghost hunt at MSP, and it just so happened that Get Haunted was doing a hosted event there. I was going regardless. I didn't go for them. I didn't, like I said, I didn't know who they were. And then when I decided to write this book, and then MSP invited me to stay there and write the book. You can't have a ghost hunt you can't have a ghost hunt gone wrong horror novel without a ghost hunting company, right? So I was going to make a fictitious one because I'm an author and most of the stuff I do comes out of my head. I make fake companies, I make fake places, towns that don't really exist. But then I was like, I wonder if Rob, and I'd only met Rob. Sarah didn't go to MSP. It was Rob and Trevor. Rob and Trevor were my introduction into Get Haunted. So I shot a message to Rob. I was like, hey, I don't know if you remember me. I was at your MSP overnight. I was the one wearing the Amityville bed and breakfast t-shirt. That was the only way I could think to remind him who I was, right? And he was like, oh, I remember you. Yeah. Okay, what's going on? Hey, yeah, I'm glad you came out. And I pitched him the idea. I said, hey, this is what I have up to this point. I was going to create a fictitious ghost hunting company that hosts the overnight at MSP where, the poop hits the fan. I was like, but how would you feel if I used Get Haunted? Like, is there, once again, would you sue me? Like, I did the same thing. Like, I think it'd be fun to keep real live things. And Rob was absolutely flattered, just said, no, this would be amazing. So then instead of coming up with character names, I used everybody's real name. So all the MSP guides in my novel are the MSP guides I didn't change anybody's name. Get Haunted is Rob, Sarah, and Trevor. They're also main characters in the book. My main character is Hannah, and I picked her because by happenstance, Rob paired me up with her when we did our breakout sessions. So we got to know each other a little bit. And then me and Hannah started talking, separately, like on Facebook, and then we exchanged phone numbers. Then I graduated text messages, and then eventually me and Hannah were like making phone calls to each other. So we became really, really close, like really fast. So everybody in that book are real people that are in the either MSP employees, Get Haunted, or lovers of the or people who love the paranormal. So that's how I met Get Haunted. It was just, and Rob was just so flattered and so happy. And I got to present Rob with the very first printed copy of These Walls Still Talk overnight at the jail in New York, the Orange correctional facility. What is it? Oh my God, Mid-Orange, the Mid-O correctional facility. So it's funny because Hannah flew out for that, and we went with my sister Alicia. So Rob had no idea that I had it on me, and I brought it, and he just, while he was doing like his introductions in front of everyone, I like held it up. I walked in with it like this. So Rob and Sarah and Kaylee and Bill and Trevor and like the whole Get Haunted crew have welcomed me with open arms. And then and of course Denise and Ernie and the Nesper guys I got really close with, with Wade and the Nesper people. But same thing with the Ditto House. I was like, well, the first book in the series, it's everybody's real first name. So I did the same thing with the Ditto House book, so Ernie and Denise are Ernie and Denise in the book. Rob is Rob. Sarah. I got Kaylee and Bill now. I have Squatch Man, from Fort Duffield. He's Squatch Man. Greg, yeah. So I don't call him Greg in the book. He is Squatch Man only through the whole book. That's just what I call him, right?
And he is Squatch Man. I mean, I don't. That's who he is. Nobody knows about Greg. He's just Squatch Man.
He's just right. I didn't even know his name was Greg until like 3 seconds ago. But I used again Ditto House. It was a lot of fun. Leanne and Todd, who run the Bell Witch Cave. They're side characters, not necessarily main characters, but they're in it enough where it's Leanne, and so they have a part in the book.
They're good people too.
They're great people.
I'm actually doing the Bell Witch. I'm doing a private investigation at the Bell Witch later this year.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not big on the public investigations. But I'm actually paying the big money to do the public investigation.
Right.
So the private investigation. So I'm looking forward to that. So
but you know who my main character is in my Ditto House book? Red. Red steals the show.
Of course he does.
Yeah, Red is Red in the book, and it was a lot of fun to write him because I've never written an animal as having like a pivotal part in a novel, and I was left home with Red every day while Ernie and Denise would go to work. So Red laid next to me every day while I was writing, so it was kind of cool to like look down. Or if you've been to the Ditto House, the back porch, they have all the rocking chairs out there. I would grab my laptop and go out with Red, and we would just sit there together while I wrote. And, it was fun to include, an animal that Red's kind of, well known in the Get Haunted community. So it was fun to like have him, and he's in the book a lot. Like it was really fun to have him part of the book.
And, like you said, all the Get Haunted people are good people. Trevor's actually from the same hometown I am. We're both from Paducah, Kentucky. I kid people all the time, and I tell them that Paducah has the most real known paranormal investigators per capita in America because we got me. We got me. I consider myself a nobody. I am nobody special. I am a nobody. But we have me, and then we have Trevor. I call Trevor my little brother. So we have me, we have Trevor, and then for the people who follow the TV shows, Gavin Kelly is also from Paducah. So
wow, you guys got a good little thing there, huh?
Yeah. But that's all I got to say about that. Yeah. But I'm going to switch gears a little bit, and I want to talk. We're just going to talk about something fun right now. and then we'll get back into the serious stuff. Let's talk a little bit about the DeLorean.
Yes, my car. Sure.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk a little bit. So obviously, uh, I think we're pretty well in the same age bracket thereabout anyway. So
Mhm.
of course, when I see the DeLorean, and I'm sure when you see the DeLorean, we automatically think Back to the Future.
Mhm.
So so my question is, I mean, and the reason I mentioned DeLorean is because honestly, it's just too cool not to mention. I mean, it's a DeLorean. You know what I'm saying? So so how did the DeLorean come into your life?
Well, it's been my dream car since I was about 6 or 7 years old. I saw one in person before Back to the Future came out. So I knew that the car existed before there was even a movie. And my mother took me to see the film in the theater. I actually saw all three in the theater. I saw 1, 2, and 3 in the movie theater. And I think seeing it before the movie existed and thinking it was pretty cool, and then seeing it in a sci-fi movie where it's a time travel vessel, blew my 9-year-old mind. So it's always been like the only material thing I've ever really wanted, right? Because I've always wanted a family, and I've always wanted health, and I've always wanted good friends and a good writing career and all that other stuff. But if you were to ask me, like, the one material item you want, it was always the DeLorean. From being a little tiny kid, it was always the only thing I've ever wanted in my life. And when my second book came out in 2010, because my first book came out in 2007, so I've been a published author now for 18 years. When my second book, Welcome to Parkview, came out in 2010, that's another horror novel, I opened up a bank account, which I called my DeLorean Fund. And from that moment on, in 2010, every single book I sold, every penny, book royalties, every month went into this bank account. So it never hit the household. It didn't go to credit card payments. It didn't go to groceries. So I just, my 9 to 5 job, that's what went into the household. My book sale royalties, just for years, it compiled. In 2019, my mother saw an ad for a DeLorean for sale, but there was no price. There was no nothing. She called me. She's like, "Hey, someone's selling a DeLorean. You should give him a call. Here's the phone number." So I called. I wasn't expecting much. The lady told me I was the third caller. I was like, "Well, I'm not getting this car. You're never the third person and get a DeLorean, right? I mean, you're the first or you don't get it." So I was like, "Well, that sucks." She says, "But the person who's number one keeps trying to lowball me, and he keeps trying to get me to go lower and lower, and I have a price that I don't want to go lower." So she's like, "I don't think we're going to see eye to eye, so then I'll go to number 2, but you're number 3." I was like, "All right, I still probably not getting this car." She told me what the price was. I was $3,000 short of her asking price. That's it. I've been saving for 9 years. I was only $3,000 short. Like, I was like, I'm not losing this car. If I have to go rob a bank, I don't know. If I have to go sell my body on the street corner, I'm not gonna lose the car for $3,000. A couple days go by, I kind of forget about it. Because I assume I'm not getting this car, right? She calls me. She says, "Hey, I'm just giving you a heads up. Number two, man number 2, I've left voicemails. He's not calling me back. The last voicemail that I left him says he has 72 hours to call me back, or I'm going to go to number 3, who's you." I didn't sleep for 72 hours, right? I don't think I slept for 3 days. I laid in bed all of those nights. I've never prayed for somebody to not make a phone call before. Like, "Oh, please don't let him make that phone call. Please have that message be deleted. Maybe, whatever." And on the 72 hours was up, my phone rang, but it wasn't from her because I had programmed her number so I wouldn't miss it. But it was the same area code. So I was like, "Oh, this is the same area code that she lives in, but it's not her number." But I still answered it, and it was her dad. And he's like, "Hey, Sarah is at work. She wanted me to call and tell you that if you want the car, you're next, but you need to wire the money today or tomorrow, or she's going to go to the next person." I drove to the bank in my pajamas to wire that money. I did, yeah. Yep. So she overnighted me the title and a spare set of keys in good faith that there actually is a car, because I wired this money to this woman, and I bought the car sight unseen. I was just the car was from Traverse City, Michigan, and I was living in Monterey, California at the time. I didn't go see the car. I was just hoping there was a car there. And so that's how I got the car. So all of my book sales for my first 6 novels paid for that car. So my writing career is what paid for my dream car. Really quick, really funny ending to this story. This was in February, and if anybody knows anything about Traverse City, Michigan in February, it is basically buried in snow. No transport company would go pick up the car because it was off the beaten path. There was no transports that naturally were coming out. Every transport company I called to go pick up the car told me the earliest we can get up there is April, when things start thawing, because we don't want to put our drivers or our trucks in jeopardy of sliding, getting into a wreck. It's treacherous. Well, the owner calls me and says, "Hey, you need to get this car out of my garage. You've bought the car. This is your car. I don't want it here anymore. And if you can't get it out, then I'm going to refund you your money. And it's not your car anymore. I'm going to go sell it to somebody else." Now I'm in panic mode again, because now I'm like, how do I get this car out of this driveway? I'm going to lose this car. Well, I found a transport company. His name is Ivan. I'll never forget this. Ivan told me that if I slipped him $500 under the table, he would go get my car for me on top of the fee to get the car. So I gave Ivan an extra $500 so I could get my car out of Traverse City, Michigan, so I could get it home. Yep.
So, okay. Final question about DeLorean, and then we'll move on because we are out of time, but that's okay. We'll just go a little bit over. So, how many Back to the Future jokes do you hear?
A day? An hour? I mean, it's just nonstop. It just never ends. It's everything from 88 miles an hour jokes. I got so sick of someone saying, "Where's the flux capacitor?" that I had a flux capacitor built, and I now have it in the car. So when somebody says it, I go, "Oh, it's right there in the car." And they think they're being funny, and they don't realize that I actually have one that sits between the 2 seats.
And now they're just funny looking. Okay. So, have you ever taken it ghost hunting?
No, I was gonna bring it to a Get Haunted event. They were doing an overnight in New Jersey, and I was like, you know what? I'll take it. It's all highway. It's not that bad of a drive. And that night, we had a storm rolled in, like a rainstorm, not snow, but like fog, and all this rain came in. And I remember talking to Rob, and I was like, I was gonna bring the DeLorean, and Rob was like, "Dude." He's like, "Don't bring it." He's like, "I would feel awful if you brought it just to show me and you like wrecked the car." Right. So I was driving we were doing the New Egypt Museum in New Jersey. That was the event. And I remember driving there being like, I could have driven this. There's no storm. I swear to God, I hit a certain point in the trip and I couldn't even see 2 feet in front of me. So it was one of those things where I was like, oh, I'm so glad that like we didn't do it. But I will one day. I think that would be fun.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's like the perfect ghost hunting call. Okay,
Yeah.
So our next segment was going to be about the dental house, but we've already kind of covered that. But real fast, not real fast. Take your time. I don't care. But recap for everybody how to pre-order the book if they want to come to the event at the dental house. Give the details about that.
Sure.
Just recap all that for everybody.
Yeah. So my website is brianpaone.com. Nothing fancy. It's just my name.com. And right when you go on my page, I have like an announcement bar up top. And on the announcement bar are links. One link is to buy tickets to the Ditto House tour and meet and greet on Friday. And it also is a sign-up sheet for tickets for the Fort Duffield event when those go on sale. Then there's another link to pre-order the Ditto House book, and the name of that book it's called Unpacking the Ditto House, because their last name is Pack, so it's kind of like a play on words. And also there's also a third link at the top of my website banner where you can pre-order the Get Haunted Pet Investigator book. And I know I said it's for, ages 8 to 12, but I did write it with the idea that anybody of any age group would find it fun. Or if you have nieces and nephews or grandchildren or next door neighbors who are in that age range, it'd probably be a great, birthday present or whatever. And all of my books are on brianpaone.com. So it's not just that. So if you want to check out These Walls Still Talk, my MSP book, or you want to check out any of my, 14 titles, they're all on there. Pictures of the DeLorean are on there, of some of the celebrities I've had sit in my car. Anytime I'm at an event where there's a celebrity, I try to grab them and have them sit in the car for a photo. So all my celebrities with my most favorite celebrity is Barry Bostwick from Rocky Horror Picture Show sat in my car. And that man is such a gem. My God. And ever since that day, whenever I do an event with Barry Bostwick, he remembers me from sitting in my car, and he'll always take time out of his day to talk with me. And I'm a big Rocky Horror fan. So if you told 16-year-old Brian that Brad from Rocky Horror would be sitting in his DeLorean one day, I'd be like, what timeline are we in? Like, when would that ever happen? But that was a highlight of my life, was getting Barry Bostwick from Rocky Horror to sit in my car.
I have a similar story. So I'm a huge horror fan too. I mean, I think most of us are, not all of us, but most of us. But, I'm a huge horror fan. And I like the old school classics. Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Halloween at 5 years old at the drive-in in Paducah. So it was the opening picture was, can we do it till I need glasses? And then the main show was Halloween. So that just ages me a little bit. But but I'm also a big Friday the 13th fan. I always wanted to meet Jason Holder.
Mm-hmm.
That was so when I was a featured guest, whatever that means, last year at Smoky Mountain Terror.
Okay.
And which is mostly a horror convention, but they throw a little bone to the paranormal. So there's like 5 teams there, and I'm one of the teams, and so I'm there, and there was three of the people who donned the Jason mask that was there that weekend. There was Warwick from 2, so he was the first real Jason, because for people who don't know this and want to argue with me, Friday the 13th, 1, Mrs. Voorhees was the villain. So
that's true.
So,
no, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
So 2, you get Jason. So I got Warwick to sign it. Then Mirrors, who was Jason in the 2009 remake, mm-hmm. He was there, so he got to sign it. And then finally, I got Holder to sign it. I rated it. So obviously, I had to be at my table most of the time. You know how it is when you're at these conventions. Mm-hmm. I had to be at my table. Well, I kept trying to network, So I kept trying to go talk to everybody. And finally, Sunday, which was the last day, I finally was able to, get away from my table. And of course, Holder was late. He was like an hour late to his table. I'm the first one in line. I got in line at 6 a.m. As soon as they let the vendors in the door, I was the first one in line.
Right.
But when I got up there, I had all 3 of them sign a mask. I got a mask. It's a prop quality mask, a really good one.
Right.
And they all 3 signed it. I got it framed now, and he signed it. We talked for a while, pictures, all this stuff. He actually does paranormal investigations too. We're actually going to do a paranormal investigation together next year at Brushy Mountain. So so that was cool. That was definitely worth the wait. So all right. So here's our closing questions. Are you ready?
Yeah.
In closing.
First
of all, I do want to tell everybody thank you for tuning in on a special night. I will be back Friday on my usual time of 6 Central, 7 Eastern. My guest on Friday will be Jason McRae, everybody's favorite Canadian. So he'll be my guest Friday. He's actually at the hospital right now. Apparently they're having the baby right now as we're talking. So hopefully he'll be able to. he's canceled on me like 4 times, so it's okay. Something always comes up. He's a good friend. I tease him. So I just wrote my first book. It just came out for everybody that don't know. My first book is the title. I love my titles or my personality. I have a lot of people who tell me my titles are too long, but my titles or my personality. My first book's title is "Don't Buy Generic Batteries," and it's probably not a demon. So that
I did see that. I saw you post about that.
yeah. So that's book one.
It made me laugh. It made me laugh when I read it, and now it made me laugh this time again.
and that's what it's supposed to. And it's supposed to be. And it's supposed to be like, well, maybe with that title, I should buy it. And so my introduction, preface, whatever it's called, for that one was written by Aaron G. Thompson. My second book is actually titled "It Takes More Than One Skinny Jeans and Yelling Demon to Be a Paranormal Investigator." And then, I'm telling you, and the preface to that one is written by Jason. And then my third book, maybe right now I'm calling my third book my final book, but we'll see. My third book is actually, the title was inspired by the story of the Blair Witch Project. I met her and she inspired the title because we spent like an hour talking. It was during the lunch break at the Smoky Mountain Terror, so we were just sitting there talking while nobody was there. Well, when they reopened the doors, her line started getting long, so I went back to my table. Whereas I went back to my table, she noticed my Born Again tattoo. So she yelled at me. She's like, "Hold on, kid. Hold on." I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "So let me get this. You're a Christian and a paranormal investigator and a demonologist. How does that work?" So the title of my third book is, you mean you're a Christian and a paranormal investigator? How does that work? That's the title of my third book. And and Wade Kirby writes the introduction for that one.
Oh, good. Yeah. Wade's my people. I love Wade.
Wade's good. Wade is good people.
Yeah, Wade is gonna probably come to the Ditto House book release party. He's never been to Fort Duffield. It's been on his bucket list, and he said that this is like a perfect way to like check it off. To come support me and then do the Fort Duffield thing.
So I was good friends with Dan Riviera. I never got to meet Dan. Mm-hmm. We talked to the phone weekly, but I had never met him.
Yeah.
The last time I talked to him was a week before he passed away. I carried on an hour-long conversation in the grocery store. I was supposed to be grocery shopping with my wife. We was in Kroger, and I was supposed to be grocery shopping. I'm talking to Dan, and we're talking about everything besides ghost hunting. We were talking about classic cars, everything. Mm-hmm. Well, so when he passed, it hit me hard because I was supposed to have met him for the first time at Rock Island.
Right.
So when I got to Rock Island, I almost didn't go through the museum.
Right.
Because that was something I was supposed to do with Dan.
Mm-hmm.
But I did go through, and I'm glad I did, because as soon as I walked through the door, guess who saw me? Wade. As soon as I walked through, and he came up and gave me a hug. He's like, "Kid, I'm so glad you were here." So I mean, so definitely good people, And okay, so in closing, this is our closing segment. What's next for you? Do you have any upcoming projects, books, or any public investigations people should look out for?
Sure. So now that I've done 2 writing on location Get Haunted Tales, and then I also done the young reader Get Haunted Pet Investigator book, I do have some other ideas for books that I want to really do now for a bit. So if there is going to be another writing on location Get Haunted Tale novel, it'll probably be at the Melbourne Manor in Iowa, because I've already talked to the owner. He's already extended an invitation to stay there. So I've already cleared that with him. Like, that's a done deal. That's just something where I would have to pick dates and coordinate with him. But I do have 2 book ideas absolutely that will happen before then. So I'm outlining a neo-noir dark fantasy novel right now. don't know if you've ever seen the movie Dark City with Kiefer Sutherland, and right. So it's think Dark City meets Silence of the Lambs, maybe. Like that's kind of where I'm going. It's going to be very, very dark. Very. If you remember the first Crow movie with Brandon Lee, it's gonna be that tone, that like very gothic, dark. It's kind of always raining. That like that. That neo noir feel with a lot of dark fantasy thrown in. So that's one that I have. I really have to write that one. That was the one I was supposed to write before I went to MSP the first time. So that's like 3 years overdue at this point. And believe it or not, Brian is writing his first like holiday Christmas like novella. I'm taking a stab at writing just a straightforward like Christmas story. And we're hoping to have that out maybe for this Christmas season. So after those 2 books come out, I'll probably get with the owner of Melbourne Manor and kind of have like a business meeting with him where like we talk seriously, and then we start looking at dates when I can go there. So.
All right. So the second last question you already answered, but I do want you to hit it again in case any of the people missed it, and that is, where can people follow your work and stay up to date on what's coming?
Sure. So the easiest way to do that is if you go to my website, brianpaone.com, on the menu is it says newsletter. If you sign up for my newsletter, I send out a newsletter once a month. So you're not going to get spammed and bombarded. But in that newsletter is everything from what I'm writing, what I'm working on now, all of my in-person appearances for that month. So if you want to come see me, in person, it has promotions and deals, because I'm always doing sales and stuff, but only through my newsletter on my books. Or you can follow me on Facebook. It's Brian Paone author, super easy to find. And Instagram, it's Brian Paone _author. And on YouTube, I believe it's the same. So if you just Google my name, all my links pop up, and you can follow me because I post all of my content on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. But my newsletter on my website proper is probably the most streamlined way of getting everything about me and where I'm going to be and what I'm working on and what's coming out and stuff like that.
Right. So,
we have a question. When does the pet book come out? So the pet book is called The Scary Place. Because that's what the Get Haunted Pets call the haunted house that's across the street. So The Scary Place has a release date of May 14th. And again, you can pre-order it from my website, brianpaone.com. You can also pre-order the ebook from Amazon if you'd rather do an ebook. So Amazon is already doing pre-orders on the ebook. And the audiobook will be coming out after the paperback comes out. I have somebody recording it right now. I have the person that I picked has the perfect voice to narrate the book. So it's just going to be fantastic.
I don't know how I missed that question. Usually it pops up that I have a comment, but it didn't do it that time. I wasn't ignoring you. I just suck at this still after 4 years. It's okay. I'm my own worst critic. So I had Robert Murphy on here. I don't know if you know Robert Murphy, but I had him on here. I had him on here a couple of times, and he would always lecture me. He's like, "Stop talking bad about yourself." I was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "I'm a nobody." He's like, "You're not a nobody." It's okay. Okay. So, final question. After everything you've experienced, do you believe the paranormal is something we'll eventually explain, or something that will always remain mysterious?
Oh man, that's a good one. I feel that unless something from the paranormal tells us what it is, I think we'll constantly be looking for answers.
I like to say, I didn't ask the question to myself, but it's my show, so I can answer it if I want to. I always tell people, some things we will not know until we're on that side.
Right.
And
that's what I was alluding to. Unless something from that side like gives us like like a textbook, right? I don't think we'll ever really truly know.
So here's actually a question I asked everybody last season, but it's still a question that I like to ask certain people, just certain people that I actually respect, and I think their opinion I want to know. So you get to be one of the ones I ask the question for.
Oh, great. I'm
So
flattered.
Phil,
Aw.
be honored. So okay, so my word. This is my word. So I use the word parapop culture. So to me, do you understand what parapop culture is, or do you
Yeah,
need me
I
to?
mean, I can, yeah, context clues I can put
Okay,
together, I think, what you mean.
okay. So my question is, how do you think the parapop culture has improved the field, and how do you think it has harmed the field?
Okay, so I'm going to use an author analogy. I think it has diminished it in a sense where, same thing with authors, when self-publishing became available to a 14-year-old kid who wants to put out a book, he can do that. There's no series of filters that stop crap books from getting put out into the world, right? And what it did was it made people for a while, and I think we're still feeling it, but it made people for a while leery of buying books from authors they don't know, because they had bought books, so many crap books, and they've been burned before. So now we lost some of the public's trust that that there are authors like me and some of the other authors that I'm very close with, that we are meticulous with our, we have editors, we have graphic designers, people making our front covers who are professionals. We have formatters who we hire who do that for a living. So it gets harder and harder for me to be, no, my book is professionally edited, it's professionally put together, because people have been burned over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years with crappy, unedited, slop. So I think the same applies to the paranormal community, where if anybody with an iPhone can now make a YouTube channel, can now become investigators, you have to sift through the good from the bad. And if there's no filter and anybody can put it up there, people, I think, don't want to waste time sifting through the bad to get to the good. So, I mean, does that make sense? I think that has,
I,
I think that's
I,
hurts any field where you allow everybody to do it, you know? So I so that's kind of my feelings about I used to call it muddying the waters. For every crappy, unedited, self-published book that gets put out into the world, you've muddied the water for the authors, like us, who I lose sleep over every word that's in there. Like, is this the right word? And there's people out there that just have clickety clack, clickety clack. Look, hey guys, I published a book. Clickety clack, clickety clack. Hey guys, I published clickety clack. Clickety, like I've put out 3 books in the last 6 weeks. I'm an author. No, it's all crap. And what you're doing, you're hurting the other authors who actually spend time with their craft. Like, because in my mind, art is art. So musicians are artists, authors are artists, sculptors are artists, right? Movie makers are artists. People who just put a bunch of mashed potato together and say, look, I made a sculpture, and then like it falls over. Like that's what that people are doing, who just want to like cram books out into the world just so they can say they're an author, not realizing that they're actually hurting everybody else in the process. People are losing faith in picking up a book by an author they don't know. And that's getting harder.
I think that's a good explanation. And and like you said, I think most of what we have that hurts the paranormal field now is the crap you see on YouTube.
Right.
Because they're not they make a channel because they want fans. They don't care. They don't care whether it's real, and they're hurting the ones that walk around every 5 minutes and it's a demon. They're
Right.
hurting the field.
Right.
There's actually locations now that won't allow you to go live,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't release your video evidence. You can't release your video evidence until it's approved by the location, because of those groups. So that's the muddy in the water you're talking about. And
Yeah.
the locations that I'm talking about pretty big locations. I'm talking about like the Harriman Hospital, Old South Pittsburgh Hospital, Brushy Mountain, Octagon Hall. So these ain't the house across the street. These are
Right.
big locations.
Right.
And the thing is they don't care. They actually call these people out by name. They're like, you have to sign this waiver that you're not go because of this team. And I don't even mention the team because it's not with my brand. I call them the paranormal. I call them the Spice Girls of the paranormal field.
That's great. Yeah.
Because they're just entertainment. They don't care about content. They're just so that, to me, and these are the teams that are out there. When I was at Smoky Mountain Terror, like I said, of the 6 teams that were there, 6 of us were legit. We had this other team which has a huge following. I mean, a huge following. I'm talking about millions of followers on YouTube. I mean, yeah, on YouTube. But they're fake, and they charged $70 for a picture.
Oh, I know. I think I know who you're talking about.
It's not even an autograph picture. It's just a picture. I call them out on it because that's me. I've been doing this. I've been doing this for 34 years.
Yeah.
I do this for the right reasons. And to be honest, I guess maybe I'm a little bit upset, maybe even a little bit jealous, because while I'm out there busting my butt doing things the way they should be done, these people faking stuff have millions of viewers and are making movies and everything else. But I called them out on it. I walked over to them because they were actually the table next to me, and I don't care. I walked over to him and I was like, "Hey, that's wrong." He looked at me, this 20-some-odd-year-old kid in tight jeans. Looks at me, skinny jeans, whatever they're called. He looks at me and he's like, "That's fair." That's all he said to me. Now, I will say, I guess I got professional courtesy because he was cool with me. He took pictures of me. He signed whatever I wanted. I didn't care about him, but one of my team members' teenage son is a big fan of them. So I got all that stuff for him. But still, that's hurting the field, like you said.
Right.
But anyway, that's my rant for today. So thank you for being on the show, Brian.
No, thank you for having me. Yeah.
I look forward to talking to you again soon, and hopefully I'll see you at Fort Duffield.
Yeah, it'd be great. Yep. Tickets for the Fort Duffield part of the book release party go on sale at the end of this month. But if you go on my website, you can fill out a form where I will email you when they go on sale, so you get first dibs, so you get a ticket before it sells out.
That's what I need to do, because every time I've tried to go to Fort Duffield, it's always got sold out. So that's what I need to do. And all right, so
you can do that right from BrianPaone.com. Everything's there. That's your home base.
I'll do that as soon as I get off and eat. All right, thank you for being on the show, everybody. Thanks for viewing. Like I said, Friday we'll be back at our usual time, and we will be with Jason McCrae. Hopefully, pray whatever you do, because apparently they're having the baby right now. I talked to him as I was signing in, and because I always check to see what my next guest is, so I can put it on there. So I signed in. As I was talking to him before I signed in, and he was like, I was like, "We're still cool." He's like, "I'll let you know tomorrow." He's like, "We're at the hospital right now." So, all right. So here we go. I'm going to play our leaving clip, and we'll see everybody Friday. Until then, everybody stay haunted, and we will see everybody on Friday. Maybe. Is it going to play? Apparently, it's not going to play.
Press